So this is my planting project for today, staying at home. I'm doing some work in the backyard to replace plants in an area where grass doesn't grow. And I'm also starting a little container vegetable garden. The reason I'm doing my vegetables in containers is because our backyard is very shady, and so we get more sun up here on the deck. So over here, this is our sedge, Pennsylvania sedge, or Carex pennsylvanica. And I got this sedge a couple of days ago from Earth Sangha, a native plant nursery that's nearby. They are now doing curbside pickup or delivery, free delivery for Earth Sangha members. So I had contacted them on Saturday through email. At that time, it was before they were offering delivery, so I did the curbside pickup, but it was all zero contact. I just emailed to discuss how many plants I want. I showed pictures of my yard and described the area and asked how many of these sedge plants they recommended. So I ended up with 2 trays of plugs. There's 21 plugs per tray, so that's a total of 42 plugs. So these are starting out pretty small. They will be getting bigger, but the plugs are cheaper because they're smaller, so it'll look a little sparse to begin with, and then it will fill in. These, so after emailing, then I was able to pay through PayPal and then just go pick it up. They had a spot where the plants were waiting, and I was able to pick it up without coming into contact with anybody or seeing anybody. So it's all very convenient for this time. So the sedge here is going to get a little bit bigger. It looks a little grass-like, and it's supposed to, at least as a grass replacement. That's a nice popular one. It will form clumps, so it will look a little different from grass. It will grow to about a foot long and kind of fountain out, but not very tall. So it will fill in an area maybe about 18 inches in diameter when it's full grown. It will just look kind of soft and grass-like. It does not need to be mowed. It can be mowed though, probably once a year in the fall to clean it up. So we're looking forward to that. The other plants that I got from Earth Sangha at the same time are woodland phlox, or Phlox divaricata. And these will have little flowers. They'll spread as well. I got them thinking that I could intersperse the phlox with the sedge and kind of have flowers mixed in between. When I go down to the yard and place the pots out, I'll see how that looks. I might change my mind and just put these toward the edge of the yard. And this is part of my other project, growing vegetables in containers. I've already moved out some of the seedlings to a bigger container. So in the middle we have radish. Those are growing the fastest. I planted 2 seeds per little starter, so I'm going to try to separate those out and get them into separate spots so they can grow. On the left we have some spinach, which is just starting to grow. And on the right we have some peas, sugar snap peas. I moved the ones that were starting to grow more into a bigger pot because the root was starting to come out the bottom. And I have some other containers over here. Besides the radish, the spinach, and the peas, I have short little carrots and some lettuce and some strawberries and beets for right now. But it's really the radishes that are starting to grow the fastest right now, so nothing else is really sprouting yet. Once I have planted the sedge into the yard, then I plan to move the radishes into this container so they have a little more room. This side of the yard is where I'm going to plant the sedge. It's shady because of these trees on the side and tends to be moist, and it's on a bit of a hill going going downhill away from the house down toward the back of the fence here. So there's not much grass that's growing. There's some weeds and some moss. At the top of the hill there are some pebbles, so I'm not going to plant over up there. And then in the middle of the yard we have this tree, and on the other side of the tree the grass does a little bit better. There is some mud there and there's some moss. I'm not going to plant in that area because we have our shed where we keep the bikes, and the bikes will go up that hill toward the gate and the fence. Because there's so much foot traffic and the traffic with the bikes, I'm not going to plant the plants there. So I'll just focus on this side of the yard. I'm going to start just by setting out the pots and arranging them how I think it looks nice. So I laid out all of the plugs where I'm going to plant them. First, I put them out just by eyeballing, and then I got my measuring tape and I straightened them a little, tried to get them fairly precise, not exactly. They ended up being about 2 feet apart horizontally and about 18 inches or 1.5 feet apart vertically. And then I put the phlox on the left side closer to the fence back there. That area I was not sure about planting, and I'm going to end up digging there first to plant the phlox to see if it's too rocky. If it's too rocky, then I'll end up moving the phlox somewhere else. And before I actually dig and get the sedge into the ground, I'm going to try to dig up a little bit of the grass that is there. For the most part, the grass is not growing well, but there is some. So I'll try to remove it so that the grass does not steal water away from the sedge. If there's any remaining, then later in the summer I'll probably have to go out and hand trim the grass. There is moss, and I want to leave as much of the moss as I can because I like the moss. And there are also some weeds. I've already tried to remove some. There's still a little bit left. I did plant the woodland phlox on the side of the garden in this weird area. It's kind of bounded by bricks here. So it's a little tricky to see, but there's one. There were 6 total, and they kind of zigzag through this tricky area of the garden, and they should fill out. There is spreading phlox, and so they will be able to fill in the area. There is some moss in this area too, and I wanted to keep that. It helps hold the soil in place. And up at this end was pretty rocky. We do have a bamboo problem in this yard. We cut all the shoots down last year, and we'll have to keep on top of that and cut up any new shoots that start to grow. So as I was planting some of these phlox, there was some bamboo that we dug up too, and when we find it, we'll dig it up. Down at the bottom of the garden, there's the fence in the neighbor's yard, and there's some periwinkle, I think a minor that's coming in from that side. And in this area, there's also some Indian strawberry that the leaves look similar to wild strawberry. The flowers are a different color and the berry looks a little bit different. So those are our weeds that we're dealing with here. Here's the yard after I've planted the sedge. I did not do a super thorough job of removing grass before I planted sedge. I did take out some big clumps over there. But otherwise, I'll manage the grass as I need to. Hopefully when the sedge fills in, the grass will kind of die back, as it wasn't really growing well in this spot anyway. This is kind of the lazy gardener approach, but I'll take pictures later. It should fill in nicely. The reason why I did this, besides the fact that the grass was not growing well here, is that the sedge should help grow in the shade, prevent erosion on this hill. If there's bare spots on the hill, then the soil is going to wash away in the rain. So the sedge should help hold on to the soil. And native plants are part of the ecosystem. They're better for the animals that live here, like the caterpillars and butterflies. And once they're established, they'll need less watering than grass. So in the beginning, I'll keep them watered. After they're established, then they should grow nicely on their own and fill in the yard and spread a bit to cover more of the yard. This is just a different angle of the yard, looking down from the deck. You can see the sedge a little bit better this way. You can see the spacing. This was the last part of my gardening project today. I wanted to move those radish seedlings out of the little starter greenhouse into a little bit of a bigger pot. They don't need a whole lot of room, and so the trays that the sedge plugs came in worked out perfectly. I was able to split up the radishes. I'd planted 2 seeds per hole, and most of those did grow, so I was having 2 seedlings close together, so I gently split them up. And I was able to separate them, most of them into 1 radish seedling per hole. I had a little bit more radishes than holes, so I do have a couple that are doubled up, but with a little more space. This was just a nice way to spend some time outside in the yard, feeling productive with the sunshine and the fresh air while staying at home.